This is a class for our hip flexor muscles, particularly the psoas muscle. The psoas muscle is a very deep, powerful hip flexor muscle that sometimes causes problems for people. If it's too weak or too tight, it can contribute to low back pain, pelvic pain, hip pain that can actually get pretty significant. If you take a look in my photo gallery on my Moxie site, there is a photo of the hip flexor muscles so that you can get a visual and see where they're located. They are located deep in the body. The psoas major attaches to the lower lumbar spine, goes through the pelvis area, and attaches to the femur bone, which is the thigh bone here. Because those muscles are very deep, we don't always get a good sense of what's going on with them. So we're going to fiddle around with a couple exercises and movements today. Some are meant to strengthen the psoas and some are meant to stretch. You'll get a better idea as we go through these movements as to what might be going on in your hip flexor area. And many of you may not even have an issue, but this will give us a good evaluation. All right, so what I would like you to start with is you can hold on for all of these exercises. It's going to appear as if these are balance exercises, but they're not meant to be. Okay, so definitely hold on so that you don't have to worry about the balance aspect of these movements. I'm just going to reach behind me here and use my cabinet. So let's take our right leg and try to lift it up in front of you. As you lift the leg up, okay, you're keeping your foot under your knee. The hip flexors do not work all by themselves, okay? You're also going to feel the quad muscle. It's very important to make sure that you're standing up straight. It's easy to lean back. It's also easy to crunch forward. So let's try to adjust so that each side is nice and straight and we lengthen here. And that's going to make the hip flexor work more. These positions take the strength off the hip flexors. Now, just by holding it this length of time, you can probably feel something going on right in this area here, and that would be your hip flexor. Place that leg on the floor. Let's do the same thing on the other leg. Go ahead and lift it up. If possible, you're getting the thigh at least parallel to the floor, but you can even try to get it higher if you can. Keep that knee under the ankle. And again, you might feel the quad kicking up a little bit, but we're looking to feel something in the deeper hip flexor area. Just keep holding this for a little bit. The longer you hold it, of course, the muscle gets to fatigue a little bit, and then you're going to recognize it a little bit more. So a few more seconds and hold it. So right now with the leg lifted like this, we are contracting the hip flexors, not stretching. We're contracting here. The muscle is squeezing together. All right, and take that down. So the way we strengthen the hip flexors is making the muscle contract. We add load if possible. And to stretch, we lengthen the hip flexors, which we'll work on in a little bit. Now, to take it to another point, now that you kind of might feel those hip flexor muscles, you might have felt them start to fire up. Let's keep the focus here. Now let's take your right leg and bring it as close to your chest as you can. Remember that posture though, and then tap your foot down. Let's do 12 of those. As close as you can without leaning back or leaning forward. Okay? And some of you might find, ooh, wow, that muscle is weak. Maybe you're only going to get this far without leaning. That's all right. Take it to the point that you can handle with the proper hip and back position. There's 5. Up. 6. Tighten your core. Your core helps you here. 7. And up. Down. 8. Up. 9. Lift. 10. Let's go for 2 more. Up. 11. and up. 12. All right. Kind of shake that out a little bit. Let's try the other leg. Same thing. Remember that posture. Remember the position to not lean forward or lean back. Okay. Let's take that leg up. Get it as high as you can without losing position. And tap it down. Also, lift and control. Hang on if you need to. Remember, this is not about balance. Okay, so lift, contract, lower down. And up. 4. Lift. 5. And breathe. 6. Up. 7. Lift. 8. Up. 9. Let's go for 3 more. Up. 10. Up. 11. And up. 12. Good. All right, wiggle that. Now, if you felt that a lot, then that means you probably overloaded the hip flexors. If you overloaded the hip flexors, that's enough to start increasing strength. Okay. If you didn't overload the hip flexors, that's okay. I'm going to show you a couple different ways of adding load so that you can reach that overload level. So let's grab an ankle weight, and ankle weights, of course, are available in different weights. I always recommend that if you're going to make an investment in ankle weights, to go for the 5-pound adjustables. Obviously, because then as you get stronger with the 1-pounders, you can continue to increase that overload and continue to increase your strength. There's 2 ways for overload. One is low reps and higher weight, or higher reps with lower weight. So if you don't have an ankle weight and you didn't quite hit overload in those hip flexors, when I stop at 12, you keep doing a few more reps, okay? So right now I just have a 1-pound ankle weight on my ankle, but you can fiddle with whatever you have. If you have a heavy ankle weight, maybe 12 reps will be too many. Let's give it a shot. Hold on if you need to. Take that leg up as high as you can without losing that hip position, and tap it down. And up, and tap it down. And breathe. 3. So we're just shooting for 12 reps today. 4, but keep in mind that if you need more reps to hit overload, you just keep doing a few more reps. You don't have to stop at 12, and you also can stop before 12. There's 7, up, 8. I'm just kind of moving through these exercises. 9, so that we can get as much as possible in this 30 minutes. Stop and get a drink anytime you'd like. 1 more is 12. And that is it. All right. Let's switch the ankle weight to the other side. And we're going to try 12 here. As we go through these exercises, you're going to figure out which level is best for you to start at. And then next time you do this recording, you can go right to the level that works for you. You can go right to the ankle weight. You don't have to start with no weight. You can go right to the resistance that works for you. Here we go. Hang on if you need to. Lift that knee up as high as you can and tap it down. This recording is just to give you a guideline of the exercises, and you adapt the weight, the load, and the reps according to the level that you're currently at. There's 5, and up, 6, up, 7. Really pay attention to the body position. 8. It's so easy as you get going. 9, to just start powering up and leaning. 10, up, 11, and up, 12. All right. Now I'm going to show you a different way to load that exercise. So take your ankle weight off, and I'm going to have you grab a light loop band. And this time, we're going to place the loop band under both feet. Okay? Make sure that you are solidly stepping on the loop band, especially with your left foot, because we're going to lift the right foot off the floor. Make sure the band is going over the laces of your shoe on the right side so that when you lift your knee, the band stays in place. All right, with the resistance band, it's going to probably feel like a heavier load. So I'm probably not going to get my leg up nearly as high as I did without the band on. And I don't want you to have that expectation. So let's take that right leg now and pull up against that resistance on the band and take your foot back down. Pull up and take it back down, okay? And body position appropriate. Keep those hips in line. And up. There's 4. We're still sticking with the 12 here. You go ahead and do less or more if needed. 5. Pull, really pull. Feel that resistance. 6. And pull. 7. Pull. 8. And up. 9. Up. 10. Let's shoot for 2 more. And pull. 11. And pull. 12. All right, good. That one's a little tougher. Take a couple breaths. And then we'll do the same thing on your left leg. So check your band. Make sure it's secure under your left foot. Nice upright posture here. And let's take that right leg. Sorry, left leg. Pull up and down. Feel that resistance pulling against the band. And down. And left. There's 3. And exhale up. Inhale down, 4. And left. 5. Balancing on this one's a little tougher. You notice I'm holding on here. There's 6. And up. 7. Left. 8. Up. Down. 9. 3 more. Up. 10. And left. 11. And 1 more. Left. 12. Very good. All right. Let's take this band off here. We're going to do a couple gentle hip flexor stretches in between our next strengthening exercise. So as I mentioned, the way we contract the hip flexors is we shorten them by pulling the leg up. But the way we stretch is to lengthen it. So standing up straight does put a gentle stretch in your hip flexors. You'll notice that if you sit for a long time and then you stand up from that long seated position, and you might feel a tightness right in here just from standing up. So standing straight does indeed put a gentle stretch right through those hip flexor muscles. Another gentle way to stretch the hip flexors is to put your hands on your hips and push your hips forward. Now you're increasing the length of the hip flexors, so you're increasing that stretch. If you happen to have a job that requires you to sit for long periods of time, or you drive a lot, when you stand up or get out of the car, this is a great, easy stretch that you can do anywhere to kind of help lengthen those shortened hip flexors. And of course, if you have the opportunity, especially if you're at the desk, get up frequently and do this. If you're in a car, obviously you gotta wait until you stop. But a great, simple, easy hip flexor stretch right here. And you do this a few times, hold it for a few seconds, take a couple breaths, and inhale. All right, we're gonna go back to another strengthening exercise next. This is a simple standing straight leg lift. Okay, I'm going to turn sideways again so you see what my body is doing. Keep in mind, just as I mentioned with the knee lift, we want to be careful not to let the hips come back, or forward I should say, nor hinge forward. Okay. Now there are movements and exercises where it's actually important to do that movement, okay, but not for this one. So let's take your right leg out in front of you, get that posture in the right position with a straight leg. See how far you can lift that leg without breaking this postural position, and then tap your heel down. Again, remember, I said the hip flexors do not work all by themselves. You're going to feel your quad here, but try to think about relaxing the quad a little bit. You can't take it out of the movement. And think about those hip flexors. Up and down. Go ahead and hang on again. We're not working on balance. I mean, you can, but I want to make sure that you really get this position first. There's 4. And up. Now this position is so much easier to crunch forward because we want to get that leg higher. 6, don't worry about how high the leg gets. Worry about using the right muscles. There's 7. And lift. 8, we're shooting for sets of 12. You do less or more. 9, whatever works for you. Up. 10, 2 more. Lift. 11. By now, you can probably feel the difference between the hip flexors and the quad. And 12. All right, good. Go ahead and kind of move around a little bit. And then we're going to try the other leg. Take a breath. All right, let's get ready. Take that left leg out in front. Keep those hips, chest, back in good position. Go ahead and take that leg up, only to the height that works, where you don't have to punch forward or back. Tap down. And up. And tap down. And breathe. There's 3. Keep going. Lift. 4. Then don't worry about how high the leg goes. 5. Just keep that body in check. Good posture position. 6. I initially feel mostly my quad. 7, but I'm trying to loosen up there and think more about the psoas. 8. Getting that squeeze in here. 9. Up. 10. And lift. 11. And lift. 12. Good, very good. Go ahead and move around again. Now again, we can add some load to this exercise if you need to. So let's grab the ankle weight again. Let's place it on the right ankle. Now, of course, as I mentioned, if that last exercise, the last set, was already an overload, then don't add the ankle weight yet. Wait until you get a little stronger. We really don't want to tighten up tight hip flexors a lot more than they already are. All right, let's take that right leg out. Good posture again. And take the leg up and down slow. Okay, so depending again on how heavy your ankle weight is, it's going to be just a little extra challenge or a big challenge. And you're going to adjust the reps accordingly. Lift. 4. And up. 5. You may also notice that with the load on your ankle, you might not get that leg up as high as you did without the ankle weight. That's okay. 6. As long as the muscle's working. Up. 7. And breathe. 8. And lift. 9. Let's go for 3 more. Up. 10. Up. 11. And up. 12. Very good. All right, let's switch that ankle weight over to the left leg. After we get 12 more here, we're going to go to some more hip flexor stretches to finish up this video. Okay, good posture. Hips straight, chest up, leg out. Go ahead and lift as high as you can without breaking that hip position. Tap it down. And up. And tap. Exhale up. Inhale down. Nice and slow. That gives you the opportunity to really think, can I get that leg a little higher without bending forward? 4. And up. 5. Lift. 6. Up. 7. And control up. Control down. 8. Up. 9. 3 more. Up. 10. Lift. 11. And last one. Lift. And 12. Very good. Okay. Let's take that off for now. Now, our next stretch is usually done, I'm going to say, on a firm sofa or the side of a bed. So I'm going to set up this step to pretend that it's the side of a sofa. And you may have to do this in a different room. So if you have a phone or iPad, you can obviously take that with you. But if you're stuck on a desktop, then just kind of watch this stretch and you can do it later. You can also do it on the floor just to get a feel for it, okay? So here, you lay down on your back, but you position the one side of your body so that you're near the edge of a bed or a sofa. Okay? And you straighten both legs. Now, of course, if I was on my sofa or bed, I would have my feet here. Okay, so just kind of pretend that my feet are straight here. But then I would take my right leg off to the side, and I would let this leg drop down. Okay? As this leg is dropping down, I'm lengthening through the hip flexors of this side here. Okay? Now you got to be careful. You can bend your knee a little bit once you're here. I don't have enough depth here. My step is not really high enough to simulate a sofa or bed, but you get the idea. Actually, I feel this stretch, even though my foot is only dropping down 8 inches here. Now, if this feels like a nice stretch, just kind of let the leg drop. If you want to increase that stretch, you take your other leg and hug it in towards your chest. Okay. Now the leg that's out on the off the side of the sofa or bed, you can even turn your foot out a little bit. You're going to hit some of the hip flexors in a rotational position. And you want this to be a feel-good stretch, so be careful. Okay? Overstretching tight hip flexors tends to just cause more pain. So try to keep it in a feel-good zone. All right, about 20, 30 seconds. Then you can release. You can bring your legs back on the sofa or bed, take a break, and then you can try it once more. You can repeat this as many times as you want. You can repeat it multiple times during the day if you have super tight hip flexors and you're trying to work through it, okay? And then take a couple more breaths here. All right. In order to do the other side, you either have to go to the other side of your bed or you just turn yourself around, okay? Usually on the sofa, you've got to just turn yourself around. All right, and then lie flat again and place the other side to the edge. And let that leg come off to the side, let it dangle down here. And you're taking it to the level that you feel a comfortable, feel-good stretch through those hip flexors here. And then option is to take the other leg and try hugging it into your chest. And if you want to vary that stretch a little bit, go ahead and turn this foot out a little bit, putting a little rotation in the hip. And take a couple more breaths. Obviously, this one is tough to do if you're at the office. Certainly tough to do if you drive a lot. So this is an at-home, obviously, stretch. Now let's take the tension off for a moment. Bring your feet up onto your sofa or your bed. Just take a breath. And then go ahead and do it once more. Let that leg drop down. Pull into the chest if you'd like. Rotate that hip. You can switch positions with your leg. You can keep it straight, then rotate. You might feel that you're more tight in one or the other positions. And take a couple more breaths. All right, let's bring it all together. Now let's come back to the standing position. Okay, if you moved to your living room, that's okay. You can do this one in your living room. You don't have to reposition yourself. This is another standing stretch that you can obviously do anywhere. You can do it at the office. You can do it getting out of the car in the parking lot. All right, and that's really just a long lunge. Okay, so we started with just this very basic one where you push the hips forward. Now, if you take your right leg forward, wide enough so that you have some distance between your feet, but not so wide that you can't keep your back heel on the floor. You want your back heel on the floor and this knee mostly straight. If you have to bend it a little bit because of, tightness, that's okay. But you want it mostly straight. Then you want your upper body up right here. Right? And you might already feel a stretch through your hip flexor here. You might also feel the stretch in your calf. That's okay. If it's too much in your calf, you can lift that heel up off the floor. Okay? But try to keep it down. You might as well get a stretch through many muscle groups while you're here. Now, if this is already like, oh boy, this is tight, then you're just going to hang out right here. But if you can handle a little more stretch, try leaning back and pushing your hips forward even more, just like we did before we were in the lunge. And you're going to feel a little deeper stretch here. Okay? You hold that for 20 or 30 seconds. Okay, again, if it's starting to scream at you, release it. Okay? Right now your toe is straight, your heel is down, and you're leaning back a little bit, pushing your hips forward, feeling the stretch here. Now again, sometimes you feel this more with a little rotation. So you can take your back foot and turn it out. So your back toe is facing this way. Your front toe is facing this way. But notice what naturally happened to my hips. I rotated my hips as I turned my foot out. You might still feel a stretch in the hip flexors, but it probably decreased the stretch. So see if you can gently bring the hips back toward the center. I can't quite get my hip all the way around, and that's because of tightness. So be careful. Gently bring your hip back to the center until you feel a comfortable stretch again. Okay, and that's a little rotation in the hip flexor, so it's slightly different for the stretch. But again, you don't want to overstretch. You don't want to pull anything and then hurt even more. All right, let's come out of that all together and let's try the other side. So now lunge with the toes straight ahead first. Position your feet so you have enough length to stretch this back leg. Maybe try pushing that heel down, get that little calf stretch, and then try to stay upright. If you're super tight, you're going to want to lean forward here. You're going to try to straighten up enough to feel a good stretch, good stretch for you here. And then if you need more, you're even going to lean back, pushing the hips forward until you get just at the right amount of stretch to help you stretch out that area. All right, let's release a little bit there. Now let's try that little rotation. Turn your back foot out a little bit so your toe is facing there, but your front leg is still facing here. Again, notice my hips came with me. That eases the stretch, but then gently and carefully try to bring those hips toward the front again, but stop when you feel a good enough stretch in your hip flexors. And you can lunge this front knee forward And you can even lean back gently. Okay, and then let's release there and come out of that position. Unfortunately, the more we sit, the more these hip flexors get tight, the more we perform activities where we repetitively do hip flexion here, such as jogging, walking often and long distances, bicycling, that also tightens those hip flexor muscles. So hopefully you are able to assess a little bit of what's going on in that psoas area. Maybe you felt a little bit of weakness and a little bit of stretching or tightness. Maybe you had one more than the other, okay? Pay attention to those hip flexor muscles, pay attention to the psoas, and continue to work on it to help alleviate some of the pain or stress that you are feeling in your back, hips, pelvic area. I will be doing more recordings for this muscle group. So work on this. These are the basics. And then look for some more recordings for this muscle group in the near future. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.